Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks so much for taking the time. We will be talking today about third party and talent and how we envision how the talent space will evolve in terms of third party risk management. Who are we and why we're sitting here today? We are part of SFA, and we worked with a company called CyberSierra, which are the leading governance, cyber risk, and risk management solution in the space. And we created a report which talks about third-party risk management and how it's currently changing and why it's so important for companies to focus on it. Who are we? We're part of SFA, what I mentioned. We have a very mixed esteemed panel today. We have Rowena with us, which is a tech headhunter here in Singapore with HRS. We have Thomas with us. He is working as a CISO and CRCO for Rakkar Digital, and we have Niko with us from Horangi, a Bitdefender company, as the VP of Security. We will be publishing today our report with you guys, so you're very fortunate. You will be the first getting access to this report. We will be sharing a QR code later on. About the report, please feel free to download the report, to engage with us, to engage with SFA, and ask us questions about it later on. Connect with us, and yeah, share your insights and keep the fintech space in Singapore alive. But let's start into the panel. I would love to ask you guys and maybe hand over a little bit what you think how the talent space is changing, especially in terms of third-party risk management. What are the current drivers? Why are we sitting here? And how you envision how talent should focus on third-party risk management in their roles, or if they want to change roles in that space. Anyone wants to start?
Maybe from a talent point of view, I could chime in first. Yep. So I think for third-party risk management, it's hardly a standalone role that is being hired for. Usually it's something that cybersecurity practitioners right now have to combine and have a hybrid between their technical skill sets as well as a commercial, business-centric kind of appreciation. And by that, I'm talking about technical cybersecurity people who are able to think about what they do with data, how their technical work would influence data, right? Because that would also mean who they entrust their data to. As a pen tester, am I going to be comfortable with an external party looking through my data, and what sort of data, right? So cybersecurity talent can no longer just be back-end techies. No, they have to have that appreciation of what it means, where their data are being converted or interpreted, and also, as a result, the policies, the controls that need to be in place. So that combination of skill sets, technical and functional, is important. And gradually, as right now, when we look at third-party risk management, it's no longer just floating into a cybersecurity reporting vertical. We also see more chief risk officers, chief legal officers who are having stakes in these sort of topics. And as a result, it's important also for cybersecurity practitioners to appreciate the other aspects of risk. We talk about legal risk, ops risk, financial risk, but a lot of times tech and cyber risk people are quite traditional, right? They feel that as long as it's an IT problem, it's something that probably won't impinge on the areas of legal, ops, financial. That's not the case anymore. So for cybersecurity practitioners, it's important to have an appreciation, a regard, to read more widely about how and what you are doing in tech and cyber risk is affecting all these other areas. So that's how I would say the hiring of cybersecurity practitioners have evolved, and the demand has changed to be more balanced in this approach.
Yeah, I think it's real that the demand has changed. When you go back and see the landscape maybe like 30 years ago, a lot of companies will build their system, their software in-house. They are not going to find their outsourcing partners to do anything. They do everything in-house. They hire the people, They put all their infrastructure in a data center and do it by themselves. But nowadays, when you see all the startups, when you see all the financial institutions, they are using a lot of vendors. Almost like every day they will have new vendors onboarding. For example, like as a startup like us, we have around 50 employees. Altogether, we have 30 vendors doing jobs for us. So the landscape has changed, and every day we are dealing with third party. And we have seen a lot of the history of something goes wrong with vendors. For example, recent years, we have, for example, like global incident like CrowdStrike, or maybe SolarWinds issues. Those vendors, when they have issues, it's a widespread incidents across the entire world. And we start to see the regulators are picking up. Because these are the major issues that would destabilize the financial institutions and the global financial markets. So it starts to see that regulators are tightening up the requirements, and that will generate a lot of demands on third-party risk management.
I want to build up on what Thomas said, and of course Rowena said regarding, let me share experience, right, across different stages of my career, right, like how I observed different like scale of vendors we managed. So first, like a few years ago, right, like when I was managing security and IT team at Horani before we got acquired by Bitdefender, so like our company was like 200 people, right? And half, like 100 was like an amount of vendors we had, right? So like half amount of people basically was number of vendors we had. Then like last year we got acquired by Bitdefender, and I have a chance, like opportunity to work with our global team, with the CISO, and observe like how IT and security operates at scale. And like for company of around like 2,000 plus people, like we had a few hundreds vendors. So it was like a very big amount of things we needed to manage. And also currently, like I work with clients, right? And like to bring it a little bit more relevant for this crowd, right? Like financial institutions. So like I have an experience with one of financial institution in one of neighboring countries to Singapore, right? So, and they have more than 400 vendors. And of course, like they don't have enough resources to manage it themselves. So they're asking like a consulting firm to help them. They also take like a technology solution to help manage these vendors, right? And for example, like at Horani, like when we manage like 100 vendors, I had one person dedicated to this. At Bitdefender, now we have like a few people, like 3-4 people managing these 300 vendors. So definitely there is like opportunity for talents to cover this area.
Wow, that's definitely like a lot of vendors. I actually have a few follow-up questions. There's actually so much we can dive into, I think. First of all, how do you manage like hundreds of vendors? I think there's one question. Secondly is, how do you maybe do it with less people? Do you guys use maybe any tools? Do you do it the traditional way with Excel sheets? Any kind of opinion there? And before you maybe start, I would love in the end of the conversation to have like some questions from the audience. So please think, you can challenge us, you can ask very difficult questions. We will give the mic around in the end. Maybe download the report, which was just on the display, and have a quick read. If you have any questions, please ask us.
Yeah, so in a typical financial institution, the third-party risk management is actually a very underestimated area of work. When you onboard a vendor, when you start to have a conversation or you want to decide whether you want to use a vendor, actually you did a lot of due diligence. It's not just like, okay, I asked the vendor whether you have like ISO 27001 certificates, do you have a SOC 2 certificate? It's not like that. It's more than that. Actually, you need to understand the background. You need to know the financial health of the company. What's their background? Do they have any reputational damages? Do they have security incidents? If they are relevant to financial institutions, do they have some issues with regulators before? How their practice on doing anti-money laundering practices? and so forth. When you have onboarded them, you still need to do your ongoing monitoring to review their performance, to understanding the behavior, can they meet the SLA? And when you offboard them, you're not going to use them, you still need to clean up all the data, all the integration that you have done with them, and to make sure that they handle your customer data properly. So it's a very tedious work for an institution to do. That's why we need more people in the third-party risk management.
Do we maybe also need people who are very technical to do these things with more tools, with more technology? Maybe do you guys see anything in that space that people, maybe even in the third-party risk management space, need to be able to code, need to be able to use, I guess, AI as the new buzzword?
So yeah, exactly. This is what I wanted to add to Thomas' explanation as well. Like I think what Tobias asked, very relevant. So I wanted to mention like that. This is very interesting, right? Like in order to manage a vendor, like you need to have a very broad set of skills. Right, because you have to assess, basically do an entire audit about the company, right? Like you need to assess their compliance, you need to assess their technical stack, you need to assess like how the company works, like the structure of company, like people work in this company. So like definitely, like one person cannot go deeply in all these skills. So. And like we don't have luxury of resources to have multiple people, right? Like doing assessment, like vendor assessment. So definitely tools are very helpful here. And now I see that many tools, especially like in TPRM, third-party risk management space, are adding like generative AI capabilities to help like collect information from vendors, right? Analyze this information and present it in a digestible way to assessor. So definitely it will be like a human computer, like human AI symbiosis, right? Like, because I don't think like tool can do everything itself, and I don't think like one person can do everything itself. So they have to work together.
If I may chime in actually,
Please.
because apart from tools and technical skill set, a lot of the times it's also governed by policy, standards and controls. But a lot of the hiring managers that I speak with go beyond just the black and white. Or the technicalities behind it. A lot of times they'll look at the candidate and say, okay, so you understand this risk management framework. Tell me what you make sense of it. And because of how fragmented all these risk management frameworks are and interpreted by different markets and jurisdiction, a lot of time the hiring manager looks more to the candidate's personality, how autonomous they are to interpret it, and to make smart sense and recommend good decisions back to the company. All right, so take for example, an ISO 27001 interpreted by a bank will be interpreted very differently by an oil and gas company. Right, so how are you going to smartly, with your own independent thinking, make a recommendation based on the context and the domain that you're employed in? That's what the hiring manager would be more after. And not just that, right now we also have increasing kind of data privacy regulations, GDPR, PDPA over here. So being able to toggle and whilst fragmented, try to harmonize as best as you can. That would help you as a candidate stand out. And that also stems beyond just the technical skill set and is something that you have to complement with that soft skill, interpersonal skill, if you may, together with working with your stakeholders.
Time is unfortunately running very, very quickly. Maybe to round it up and also give the audience the opportunity to ask a few questions. So get ready, please. Maybe to end it up from our side, maybe each of you, could you share maybe 1 to 3 thoughts or ideas in case nobody was listening till now? What is the most important thing everyone should take with them today? I think we heard a lot of things from the number of vendors are rising, so we need solutions. The amount of data is increasing because of all of these vendors, all of these risks with these vendors. So we need solutions, tools, AI. We talked about a lot of like skills, what is needed if you want to go into the space. Maybe let's go through the round. Maybe we start with Niko.
Sure. Maybe I will steal what Thomas would like to say because he said about this already, like, but do a very careful due diligence. But I wouldn't stop here. I would say like, it's not just like one-time due diligence, right? Or like if like you refer to a compliance framework like SOC 2 Type 2 or ISO, like you have to do it annually. So I would say it's not just like one-time like snapshot assessment, right? Like you have to build a relationship and maintain it through the entire year, through entire like life cycle with your vendor. So like we had an experience like multiple times where our vendors like had an incident, right? And we're notified by like some threat intelligence feeds about these incidents, right? And we reach out to vendors immediately to assess like if we are impacted or not. So like you need to know like how you can reach out to the vendor, like how you can communicate and work together, like in case of urgent situations, whether like you experience an incident and like now, unfortunately, it's not if, but when incident happens, like all of us know, right? Like if a vendor experience incident, like you need to be confident, like how to deal with this, right? So, and hopefully like also there are like tools who can like help you track continuously, like your vendors and not only like just name of your vendor, like, but like a contact point, like, and all information you can use through entire life cycle.
Okay. For me, once again, wearing the talent hat, I think the title may be a little bit siloed towards cyber risk, but I would like to implore or, encourage the audience here to take heart that actually third-party risk management is beyond cyber risk. Right, so for those who are curious about what third-party risk management is there actually a demand for it? The answer is yes. Increasingly, I have more companies, not just limited to financial institutions, but in general, because of what Thomas and Niko have mentioned, the rising use of third-party vendors, that there are more companies hiring third-party risk positions at large. So the good news, the silver lining in all this is that it's a very, I would say, sweet spot. I wouldn't say a low barrier to entry, but it's something that a lot of people from different walks and occupation can come into, right? You could be a project manager, you could be an operational risk person, a financial risk management person, someone with a legal operations background, or with a little bit of everything that wherever you have come from, you would have definitely interacted with third parties, one way or other. And that would be your gateway to go towards third-party risk management. If you're thinking, hey, there's a gap, there's not many people in this area, I want to be that supply to this demand, right? So this, like I shared, would be your low-hanging fruit. The next way to propel yourself forward would definitely be to network, grow into communities which are very risk-centric and risk-specific in their narrative and their themes. Network with the who's who, with the chief risk officers of MNCA, or the chief legal officers of MNCB, places like these, right? So that you are also starting to plant seeds. So I would say that would be from a talent point of view.
Yeah, so I just want to be quick. I think one key thing, key skills that I will look into will be the critical thinking. So for each vendor, right, they have different skill sets, like they have different features, they have the value to your company. And the risk landscape for each vendor will be different. You can't use one method to measure all the vendors. That means every time when you receive a report from audit report from the vendor, you need to apply your critical thinking to understand, is it relevant to your company? And that's very important for the critical thinking is very important for third-party risk management. And that's a very good transferable skill from other industry, from other experience background. I think everyone should look into that, whether you can bring something to third-party risk management. Everyone can chime in.
Thank you very much.
Tobias, one more thing, can I add quickly?
We have, unfortunately, not too much time. I'm super sorry. But yeah, I would love to give maybe the audience time for one super quick question, because we're already out of time. Anyone wants to be the one and only one who wants to ask us a difficult question?
Yes, I just got a quick question. So how have recent cyber incidences affected the demand for third-party risk management as a whole? So like, how have basically recent cyber incidences or attacks, how has that influenced the demand for third-party risk management?
I guess I can start answering based on what I mentioned earlier, right? That like actually I had a few vendors who experienced incidents. So, and as I mentioned, like the relationship with vendors was beyond like due diligence, like when we just acquired them, but like we had to work with them and during incidents, right? And definitely like after incidents, like we have to do like another like assessment, like third-party risk management, right? Like maybe ask them for additional follow-up, like what they plan to improve after incident. So we work with one of, so for example, like we saw issues that like we didn't have enough visibility from like logs when we were receiving from a vendor, from a solution, like when they had an incident, right? So we were not able to see if like we are affected or not. So we asked them to add these logs and they added it, right? So you have to work and you have to have a relationship with vendors, right? And definitely like third-party risk management is especially becoming more like important and you have to keep an eye on it like after an incident. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for everyone joining today. Please make sure to download the report, to engage with SFA, because one of our core mission is to really engage with the community, to engage with stakeholders in the fintech space, in Singapore, but also globally. So yeah, please reach out and please drive the fintech space in Singapore. Thank you very much.